I think a lot of women don't realize how long they've really been living in survival mode until softness starts to return. Not weakness, not passivity, softness. Really being able to breathe again, to laugh out loud and have it be a genuine laugh, to feel emotionally expanded and open instead of constantly bracing against life. And I think a lot of high functioning women, especially, we normalize survival mode because we're still functioning. We're still working. We're still taking care of everyone. We're still having to get things done. But internally, we feel tense, we feel hardened, emotionally armored, like our nervous system never fully lets us rest. And lately I've been thinking a lot about softness because I've noticed it returning in myself in subtle ways. Even this, wearing my hair naturally curly instead of always blowing it out straight, and I realized it mirrors something that's been happening internally too. Less control, less rigidity. Rigidity. More softness, more ease, more permission to simply be. I think many women see survival mode as something dramatic, like complete burnout, panic attacks, falling apart. But survival mode often looks much quieter than that. It looks like functioning while internally feeling completely overwhelmed. It looks like constantly anticipating problems, thinking way ahead, always carrying so much responsibility, always managing, always holding everything and everyone together. And then over time, the body starts to adapt to that state. You become hypervigilant. Your nervous system really begins to expect pressure, and eventually you don't even realize how tense you've become because tension starts to feel normal. You stop asking yourself, do I feel safe? Do I feel calm? Do I feel connected to myself? You only ask what needs to get done next. And I think many women slowly lose their softness there. Not because they're cold, not because they're not feminine, and not because something is wrong with them, but because their body no longer feels safe enough to soften. I think we all know at least one person like that, who's always on edge, always in a mood. There's always something up with them. They're just pissed off all the time at everything and everyone. It seems that way anyway. Maybe you know someone like that. Maybe that somebody is you. And what makes this especially difficult is that high-functioning women will often hide survival mode incredibly well. From the outside, they look successful, they look capable, reliable, strong, disciplined. People admire them. But internally, they're exhausted and sometimes they're disconnected from themselves for so long that they don't even remember what ease feels like anymore. I think many women quietly grieve themselves without realizing it. The softer version of themselves, the more playful version, the creative version, the more emotionally expanded and open version, because survival mode prioritizes efficiency over feeling alive. And Soon enough, a woman can become incredibly competent while feeling emotionally far away from herself. That's why I talk so much about internal steadiness, because healing isn't just about coping better. It's about reconnecting to yourself again. And what I've noticed is that softness usually doesn't return dramatically, right? It returns quietly. You laugh a little bit easier. You stop feeling so clenched all the time. You start enjoying small things again: music, sunlight, conversation, beauty, rest. Your body slowly stops preparing for impact every second of the day. And sometimes the signs are incredibly subtle. Maybe you stop rushing so much. Maybe you cry again after years of numbness. Or maybe you just let yourself receive help, receive a gift, receive something from someone else. Maybe you wear softer clothes. I've been leaning toward more pinks and neutrals and softer hues myself lately. Maybe you stop needing to appear so perfectly composed all the time. And sometimes maybe just let your hair stay curly on a hot day. And I know that sounds small, but sometimes healing first shows up through permission. Permission to stop over controlling everything, permission to stop performing perfection, permission to just exist more naturally. I think many women have spent years trying to earn rest, to earn love, to earn safety, to even earn softness. And, eventually the body gets tired of living that way. I think one of the hugest misconceptions is that softness means weakness. It doesn't. Some of the softest women I know are incredibly strong, but their strength no longer comes from constant tension. It comes from steadiness, from self-trust, from internal safety. And I think there's a difference between a woman who is hardened by life and a woman who has experienced hard things but no longer wants to live so armored against the world. That's a very different kind of strength, because real healing isn't really about becoming emotionless. It's not about not feeling. It's really becoming safe enough to feel again, safe enough to feel open again, safe enough to soften once again. So if you've been feeling hardened, emotionally hardened, constantly tense, always bracing against life, there's nothing wrong with you. Your nervous system may simply no longer feel safe. And healing will often begin much more quietly than people expect. Not with you becoming a completely different person, overnight, but with softness slowly returning, with your body finally exhaling, with moments of ease finally becoming more familiar again. And honestly, I think that's one of the most beautiful transformations a woman can experience. And if this resonates with you, please let me know in the comments. Do you feel like you've been living in survival mode for way too long? And if you're looking for some deeper support from moving from bracing to a more calm, steady state internally, I'll leave my coaching information and some other links in the description below.